Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm making this video tonight because 3DMakerPro are releasing or have launched a new campaign on Indiegogo for their latest 3D scanner called the Seal, which is focused on scanning very small figurine sized objects. Let's get straight into it. I think we can look at their launch video and then I can sort of comment over that. And then we'll go into more details of what my thoughts are on the scanner itself. As we can see, it's quite small. I'm going to pause a few places where I think it's interesting. So what we have here is the multi-axis turntable, which is one of the perks or something you can buy later on. You may have seen this for other 3D scanners for like jewelry specifically. And what it's doing is you can place your object on like this sort of mini turntable. So that's going to rotate in one axis, but then you also have a second axis over here that can sort of move the object around and capture it as if it's sort of starting from the top and then working its way underneath. So it's really good for small objects, these kind of little multi-axis turntables. So it's cool to see that they're bringing this into the package with the Seal. And we can see here that he's using what they're calling the smart grip, and that allows you to connect and scan to the Seal using your phone. So there's no computer connected at this stage. What you can see here is just a little display. It probably just shows a few little data points, but the main thing is it's showing you the range. And we can see there that they're claiming 0.01 millimeter high precision. It's the thing with these 3D scanners. They claim what they think is what the scanners are capable of, and most people find they don't always reach their claims. It's more marketing than anything. No doubt that it can probably do that, but I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding of what that data actually means in most cases. And the texture restoration, the texture mapping, I'll definitely get into later because I certainly have something to say about that in their software, but it is capable of texture mapping. Yeah, so we can see there that it's telling us it's either too far or too close to the object for the actual scanning, but through that display on the back of the smart grip. And here we can see what the purpose is, how we're going to transfer that data from the phone to the computer. Now you can use the scanner just connected directly to the computer, but the kind of beauty in this particular product is that you can capture stuff on the go with your phone and iPhone in this case as well. At least that's what they're showing in the promotion here is iPhones. So we know it's compatible with Apple. It's not connected to the computer at all. So there's definitely going to be some grip is going to act as like a power bank as well to power the scanner itself, and then the phone is going to act as that kind of like processor for storing and capturing the data. So we can see here what she does is she has a QR code in the JM Studio software, and to link and be able to transfer, she will scan the QR code and it kind of makes that connection to the computer, and then she can transfer the data via Wi-Fi. And then I think there's not too much else. It's just a bit more kind of flashy stuff here. Nothing too interesting. And finally, we can see the two models that are available. So there's the Seal Lite and there is the Seal. The main difference between them is there's a very slight difference in accuracy. So how much of a difference that really makes to be seen, I suppose. The other main difference is what it's manufactured from. So the Seal, which is the more expensive one, has an aluminium body, and the Seal Lite is a plastic body. Okay, so let's take a look at the campaign itself on Indiegogo. So what we can see is just the video we just watched is on the main page. As for the details, it's it just goes over kind of like the main features. So there's our two versions, the Seal Lite and the Seal. The accuracy, 24-bit color texture, which I have some things to say on. The object size is the most important thing here. The purpose of the Seal is to scan small objects, and what I mean by small is like really small objects. You're thinking like little figurines and such. I have some examples here. So like this little toy car, you know, something like that size. And it says from 10 to 300 mils. So the car itself, we're looking at 70 millimeters. This statue, this little Princess Zelda statue, something like that. This is 800 millimeters tall, or 80 millimeters. So we're looking at objects that are from 1 centimeter or 10 mils up to 300 millimeters. You can see here the difference between the Seal and the Seal Lite. So the main differences here is the accuracy and the resolution is very slightly better for the more expensive Seal. It also does 24-bit color texture compared to mono texture. Not sure what they mean by that because it doesn't really go into too much detail. Personally, this is what I'm interested the most about for this particular scanner, is trying to scan really small things. And I'll show you the scanners I have, which just aren't capable of this kind of size. And the color texturing, I'd like to see more of, that's for sure, because I do not believe it's going to be very fast with my history of using JM Studio software or CR Studio software. Color scanning is just not something that really works in its current state. You can continue to go through the page and just have a look at all the details. I have noticed that they're definitely pushing out a lot of marketing for this product just in the past 24 hours up before the launch of the Indiegogo campaign, and it seems to be successful because if we go back to the Indiegogo campaign, we can see that the early bird or the super early bird specials have already sold out. They are currently sitting at almost $1 million Australian funding, which is pretty good. There's almost 1,408 backers already, and it's basically the first day of the promotion. So pretty positive for them. So good on them for that. I just hope they can really do well with this product. And there's two main options that you can pick with this campaign, depending on if you either go the Seal or the Seal Lite. You can either get just the scanner, which is going to be your cheapest option, and a lot of the marketing is going to push around that object like, oh, the $200 scanner. But what they're looking at is the Seal Lite just by itself. So that's fine if you have a tripod you want to connect it to or some sort of grip and you're connecting it just directly to the computer. Sure, you can get away with a cheap scanner and it's probably going to be pretty decent, but I think a lot of people are going to be more interested in the full package, which has the smart grip, because then you can actually scan with your phone away from the computer and then come back to the computer to actually process the scan data. The actual price you're looking at, even with the 30% off for the Seal, is going to be about $1,000 Australian. For the Seal Lite with the smart grip, it's going to be about $700 Australian. $459 US for the Seal Lite with the smart grip, and $699 for the Seal with smart grip. Most people are going to want to get this with the smart grip, so they do have that portability. So as I was saying, I've seen a lot of promotion. If you just search for 3DMakerPro Seal on Google, you're going to see a lot of the typical sites, All3DP, MUO, Digital Trends, Indiegogo, Yanko Design. All these people have some article in the past 24 hours, and they're all very, very similar content. So the one I did look at, Yanko, kind of gave a better look at these images, but they pretty much all say the same thing, just what it's capable of, what they're trying to do, etc., etc. But there's really not much difference between them. So there's definitely a big marketing push behind this product. And finally, I just wanted to look at this video because it does give us, I feel this is probably the most honest look at the product itself and what it's capable of. So in this video, she goes over a few objects and the results she gets. And I want to just sort of talk about that as well. Things like scanning her ear and then 3D printing that from resin, I think is pretty cool, especially if you're in some sort of jewelry and you're trying to like have something to work on. If you had like that and then made a silicone mold of your ear so you could display your jewelry, I think that's pretty cool. Here we have a look at the package. There's a bit of an unboxing, and I want to show you something because this is very, very similar packaging to the Creality scanner. Here I have the Creality CR Scan Lizard scanner, and we can see it's basically the same package, and that is because 3DMakerPro are the manufacturers for both the Lizard scanner and the CR Scan 01, I believe. And then 3DMakerPro have done their own versions of those products. So I'm pretty positive that the Creality Lizard is the same as the 3DMakerPro, the one they just released before, which is the Lynx, I believe. That kind of pill-shaped looking one is basically a lizard, just in a different package. So as she goes through this video, I've got mine here, and she'll open it up, and it's got the very, very exact same content. So if I open mine up, it's even got the little flap up the top. You can see at the top there. I mean, the layout's going to be different because different scanner, different packaging inside, but it does look like it looks like the same turntable. For some reason, she just doesn't have that shown in there. And then all your cables and stuff are inside as well. There's the CR Scan Lizard, and the tripod is there as well, which I don't have. It's probably on my desk somewhere, but it's the exact same tripod as well. That just shows that 3DMakerPro are the manufacturers for Creality products as well. At least a couple of them. Not the Ferret. That's a different manufacturer. So it does look like in the box you'll get the case, the tripod, the cables, and the scanner itself, and then all your power connectors. Okay, so there's the lid, the plate itself that goes on the turntable, which is a good thing. I'm glad they're using this turntable for this scanner, because the one that comes with the 3DMakerPro Whale, that thing is so noisy and whiny. I could not use it. It was just so frustrating to use that turntable. So you can see putting it on the tripod here, it does have your typical, I'm not sure what the standard size is for camera gear, but it will be compatible with any of those sort of hot shoes or cold shoes, whatever you call them. Like, here's a camera here. It's got this little camera mounting connection. It's the same for the scanner. So you'll pretty much be able to mount it on any standard tripod. Just skipping through the video a little bit. So here she's scanning a little figurine. It looks about palm size, so maybe like 70 mil. We can see, if I go back a bit, it is using the JM Studio software again for this scanner, which I don't mind. The good thing about JM Studio software compared to, say, like CR Studio software, which is Creality software, it's the same thing. It's the same developers. The only difference is that 3DMakerPro also developed this software. So whatever new updates and stuff being released come to JM Studio software first. And in fact, you can actually use JM Studio software for the Creality Lizard and have those new features already put in. The CR Studio software is usually just a revision behind. That is one thing. The software is not too bad. It's definitely improved a lot. The manual alignment, the tri-window alignment, so it's improving. Okay, and here we have our first sort of detail scan. We can see it's a little soft on the edges, and under the cape it hasn't really captured much in here, which is going to be difficult anyway, especially for a small object. You could potentially just print this, but you can see there's not much detail in the hands or anything here, so there's still some little bit to be desired still. So we can see like the hands, like you could, if you had the model itself, a little thumb here, but it's just not picked up on the 3D scan itself. So this is another interesting one. She's going to try and scan what looks like a necklace pendant. This will be difficult because of how thin it is. Scanners just can't really pick up on thin objects. Like if I was scanning this ruler, it would be able to capture that width quite easily, but as soon as you turn it sideways, especially this, it's not going to scan at all. It's just too thin. But for an example, so I tried scanning this Zelda statue a few times of the Master Sword, and it would capture this front face fine, like using the lizard. But as soon as you turn it sideways, because it's so thin, it just wouldn't pick up, and it ends up, there's no edge on it. Thin objects are always going to be tough, as we'll see in a moment. So she's scanning it. She's just taking the top surface, cleaning it up a little bit, and then processing. And that's the final look. And you can see that it's actually meshed into the top plate too much because of that thinness. It can't determine how thick it is, and it's just turning into a mass. But the point is that the detail it's captured on the pendant itself, like the outline of it, the little lettering on the front of it, it's actually pretty decent. It would definitely be something that you could export and then model from, which honestly, with these 3D scanners, you're never going to really just go straight from 3D scan to 3D print. It's usually there's some sort of adjustment you need to make in software afterwards. So it comes with the territory of 3D scanning, but you're going to have to learn some 3D modeling as well. But that's the fun part of the hobby, I suppose. I do like this one where she scans the ear, and it seems to have no real problem doing that. It doesn't look great here, but when she actually resin prints this, it comes out nice. This one's interesting because it's a bit of a bigger object. So it looks like a little alien statue, but I can see here it's a bit larger. It seems to struggle a little bit, so we can see that it's probably pushing the limits of the larger end of the scale for objects that it can scan. But the detail it's capturing this is quite nice. You can see into like the rib cage and around the face and the cheek, even the fingers around the thumb here, all the muscles. It's actually picked up pretty well. So I imagine if you're scanning any object in that kind of 20 or 200 to 300 mil range, or 100 to 300 mil range, it's probably going to be pretty nice for those objects, because the level of detail that you're going to be able to capture inside that object is going to be nice. This one's pretty interesting. She's scanning, it looks like a barbecue starter lighter. So any of you product designers out there that want to scan an object, use that as a foundation to work from in a 3D modeling software, I think it could be useful for that. I've tried scanning small objects, for instance. So here are some controllers for a VR headset, and I tried scanning these with the Lizard, and it just didn't do a good job. It does have a cover on here, but it has they are a black sort of surface, and as much as they claim to say that these scanners can scan black objects, I never find they can. I've tried scanning like a PS5 controller a few times. In these black areas, it just becomes a mess. They never pick them up. In these triggers, they never come through properly. They just, if it does manage to scan them, it just ends up like a little blob material. It'll be interesting if the claims of being able to scan black objects hold true this time, but I doubt it. We can actually see a little bit of black in this object itself. Sometimes it can scan black objects, like I've got a electric skateboard remote. It may be able to scan this because of the finish is like a matte sort of material, and so the light can actually kind of like absorb into that, and the objects you want to avoid that are black are usually like a glossy or reflective black. The light will just bounce off and scatter, and they can't pick them up. But this sort of material, sometimes you can get away, which is why I'm surprised that it can't really scan PS5 controller, because it's not like it's a reflective material, but it still just doesn't do well on them. Once she's cleaned it up, we can see that it's done a decent job. It's a little rough in some of the edges. Like in here, it certainly hasn't captured very well. Some of these features it hasn't captured too well, but the overall shape is there, and you could work from this. Here we can see that she's gone off and resin printed a lot of the scans that she's done, and they look pretty decent, but a resin print is always going to look good, you know, even if they're not the most well detailed objects, they always look nice. The ear that she scanned, I think looks really cool, especially if you were to do that in some sort of like lost wax resin and then make a silicone mold of the ear so that you could display your jewelry or whatever you're doing. Or even if you were trying to develop some sort of hearing aid that fit onto that particular ear, that could be quite interesting as well. I want to have a look at some of the objects that you could potentially scan with this scanner as well. So keeping in mind that we're working from the size of a typical ruler. Now this is a 20 mil ruler, so 200 mils. So you can expect objects about that big, 300 mil. So it says 10 to 300 mil ideal scan. So some of the objects we're looking at, this is a little toy car. This is roughly 70 mil. So something like that, I expect this to be a fairly decent thing scanner for. And then you have figures like this resin teeth or jaw. I think it would pick up the details in the corners of the teeth pretty well. And honestly, the other scanners I have, the lizard and the ferret, do a pretty good job with this one, but maybe with the seal you just get a bit more detail. This one is a really small little figure, very, very tiny. This guy is only 1 inch tall, 25 mil. So apparently it can scan this, but I don't think it will pick up the detail that we can really want from that. So things like this little blade here, I really don't think it will scan that too well. You know, that's a really small scan. So it'd be interesting to see if it can do something like that. Another one here I showed before is this Zelda statue. This one comes in at almost 80 to 90 mil. So something like that it could scan, but I think it would have a lot of trouble scanning all the hair because they're quite thin. I think it would scan the dress pretty well and the detail, but probably not the fingers. I think they'll just turn into a blob because you can see probably can't see, but the fingers are very, very small. I don't think it would be able to scan something like that. Looking at a product, something like an electric skateboard, remote control. This comes in at 120 mil, so 12 centimeters. It could probably do something like that pretty easily if it can scan black objects. This sort of material I would expect it may be able to do. It wouldn't be able to get the screen because that would be too reflective. It would probably just bounce the light off that. But this surface finish, this kind of matte material, it should scan. But I haven't had much luck with those sort of materials in the past. So see what happens. This one, I often show this in my videos as like a base point model I like to scan because the finish, it's like a porcelain, not a porcelain, but like a clay. I don't know what you call that. Scanners just pick up on this sort of material really well. It's got a lot of fine details in the skirt and the face and the body as well, in the ground. So there's a lot of fine details, but it's also quite a large object. And so scanners seem to do pretty well on this. And I like to test every scanner I have on this particular model so I can see how they go. I don't expect it would be able to scan like my drink bottle. Scanners always have a problem with something like this because it is so uniform. There's nothing distinguishable in features across this. And this is where you might need to get stickers or some sort of marker so it can distinguish the shape better, because as you turn around, it just loses tracking. It just thinks it's just staring at it the whole time. Be interesting if it can scan something like this, PS5 controller around the black. The scanners just never do well. What else do I have? I've got one more object. I'd like to see if it could do something like this. So this is a Gundam figure that I've had for a long time, which I haven't finished yet. So close. Just need the arms and the head and I'd finish this off. Something like this, like at the moment it stands at, the finished height's probably close to 200 mil, but whether it can get all the details of this model would be interesting to see because there is so much moving parts and it's very square, which I find that these scanners typically when they have sharp square edges, they don't do too well on. They like to really soften edges a lot. So when you have like points in here or these sort of points in the flaps, they tend to soften and round off and such too much, and you don't really get a good result. So I'd be interested to see how it does with that. The final thing I want to talk about is whether I would buy this myself, which I have reached out to 3DMakerPro to see if they'll send me a test unit, which unfortunately they're not going to do because they have already sent out all their marketing units out. They have sent me the whale in the past, which I never did a video on because honestly I couldn't get it to work. The results I was getting were just terrible. And I figured that I'd rather not do a bad review on it. I'd rather just forget I had it. But it is something I'd definitely like to look at again. Because when I got this box, I was really excited. Big scanner. So here's the 3DMakerPro whale, which I never did a video on because it never worked properly. You can see the branding there. It never got a good result. I'd try and try and try. I don't know if the unit was defective or if the objects I was scanning were just not what it was made for, but its whole claim to fame was that it could switch between small and big objects on the fly, which I don't think it was meant to, because in the software you had to actually select whether it's a small or large object. The main point was that it had two different type of cameras inside, one for small, one for large. Not small on the scale of what we've been looking at tonight, but small like this, and then large as in like car body size. Everything I tried, it just didn't really work. So I'll either have another look at this again in the future. People are interested, post in the comments if you want to see me do a video about the 3D Maker Pro whale, because I do have it here. I tell you what though, the case is really nice. It's worth the case. I showed off the CR Scan Lizard earlier. I'm pretty happy with that. I do also have the ferret. So here's the ferret, the Creality ferret, which now I'm playing around with still. I don't have a phone that's compatible with it, which is why I'm sort of interested in the Seal, because it can work with the iPhone. This should work with the iPhone soon. There's some stuff coming out for it which should make it compatible with iPhones, but I haven't got any of that yet. So would I get the Seal? Honestly, I'm leaning towards yes. I don't know if I'd get the Lite or the Seal. I probably will get the more expensive one, just because I like to get the best of the best. But it sort of really fits within what I like to scan: small objects, small products, small, figurines. That's what I have around me. Whereas with the whale, it's not like I was trying to scan car parts or something, or big car parts. I was just looking for small product size, figurine size objects, and that's what the Seal seems to be made for. So I'm leaning towards yes. I'm just going to take my time and think about whether I purchase this or not, because I'm not going to get a free one this time. It's definitely going to be my own money, and therefore my honest opinion as well. So anyway, I do want to say thank you for 3D Maker Pro for sending the whale. I will get around to doing something about that in the future if I can get it working. I wish them the best success with this campaign as well. It looks like they're doing really well so far, almost $1 million raised. Let's just hope that they've learned from some of their previous scanner launches what they need to do better this time to help the customers out and make sure things are ready in time and get out to the customers' hands as quick as they can. Seeing the promotional material is never a good indication of what the scanner is really capable of. Seeing what some other content creators have been posting looks promising, and we'll just have to wait and see, or get the early bird discounts and see how it goes. It's either going to be a paperweight or it's going to be a fantastic scanner for those small objects. Anyway, this is probably going to be a long video of me just ranting, but hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. I'll keep you in the loop whether I make my purchase on this or not, and when I get it, I'll do some content on it. All right, thank you. Catch you in the next one.